So we're starting now. So we're live.
Yeah, I see the live indication. Okay.
Okay, so brother Cliff, it's been a little minute. What you been up to, man?
Um, well, I've moved into another scenario chapter in my life with another position at another company. But other than that, the beat continues to go on in the crazy world of Black America. It's one stupid damn thing after another every day.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's been so much happening left and right in the media. Oh my God,
As it will continue.
man. I mean, I saw some stories. I know you saw the story about the old lady getting beat up, and then that white guy beating up that black lady or black girl. Oh my gosh, that was
Yeah,
horrible.
one of my friends, Dwight Ingram, one of my stakeholders, you've seen him come across when
Right.
I send out my videos to you guys, and he posted that video on Facebook. I mean, like I said, the beat continues. It's pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Black America, uh, blacks around the world, it just amazes me. We've got this election coming up, and like I've said to you guys before, you will see how ridiculous Black America continues to be. These
Right.
elections basically prove and show just how disjointed, marginalized, confused, and outright non critical thinking types. You know, my favorite saying, seven
Right.
out of 10 people don't think critically about a damn thing in the first place. And it shows, and it's going to show, and it will be magnified to the highest of the high during yet another election cycle.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. For those of you who don't know Cliff, just go ahead and give a little background of who you are and what you've been up to, and then we'll
Well,
go.
I'm,
Yeah.
as some of the listeners have seen from previous videos, I am the founder of Empowerment for Tomorrow. Now, the Empowerment for Tomorrow platform, in my opinion, strikes right at the heart of the most feared demographic in all of America, and it has been since slaves have been brought to this country. And that's targeting young Black males. There's enough ugly statistics to bear out what this country has done, particularly to young Black males, a systemic uh, setup, and much to the chagrin of Black men like me, uh, it's another aspect of our community where we continue to facilitate what they've set up. But at any rate, Empowerment for Tomorrow targets young Black males between the ages of 14 and 19 years of age.
Okay.
Their fathers and or a male stakeholder has to be present. Black women are not allowed. Women is for Black boys. It's for Black males only. Let me make sure that's understood. There are no white boys, Latino boys, and other boys of color coming to Empowerment for Tomorrow. It is strictly 100% specifically designed for Black American teenage boys / young men. Their
Right.
fathers also have to be present and or a male stakeholder. Obviously, we have single Black women who are caregivers for young men in this range. And after they've communicated with me, they can, in a sense, drop the young man off at one of our meetings. And the staff and I will take responsibility for the young man, as it were, that day. Obviously, if he's 18 years of age or older, 18 to 19, he's a grown man and he can come himself, obviously. But we love our women. but our women are excused from participating in
Right.
Empowerment for Tomorrow. So that platform is specifically designed for us. So that's what I'm about. Everything that runs through my veins is about trying to get a hold of Black men, and it has to start with that generation. When Black men get on track, our Black community will be on track.
Right. Has this been a passion of yours for a very long time, or is it just?
It's been a passion of mine. Well, if you want to say, I mean, I got a bug, if you will, for this about 4 or 5 years ago. So my website, empft.org, is still up and running. I've only had a couple of meetings over these 4 years since it's been in existence.
Right.
One of the most
I'm listening.
gut-wrenching things I've had to realize in this journey is that endeavoring to do something that should be done and has to be done is not met with the type of excitement, if you will, for lack of a better word, that it should be. Of course, if I had, naked women dancing on tables and stuff, the venues would be busting at the seams. But I'm trying to target that particular demographic, and you know me well as the other people. And in the few meetings that I have had, the fathers have thought it was groundbreaking. But I haven't even had a hearing or a saying, if you will, in some of our local Black churches, which our Black churches are probably one of the most cowardice institutions within the Black community, as well as some of these organizations. But that's another topic, and of course, that's what, as it's turning out, Empowerment for Tomorrow, quite frankly, is not for everyone, and that's fine. We're separating the wheat from the chaff right off the bat.
So again, with the ages, what's the age range that you're focused
14
on?
to 19.
14 to 19.
14 minus 19 is 5. 5 is the number for grace. But just in case anybody think I just pulled those out of the air, but that 14 to 19-year-old range is also an adolescent mindset, becoming a man. And it's very key to me that some things be put down, seeds be planted in their brains now.
Right.
It's too late to try to teach a man down the road. We've got to, I believe with everything in me, the only hope that we have, as I say on my website, to get the paradigm shift that we really need, it's going to have to come from that group of men, that generation, that age window. There's a reason why I call it Empowerment for Tomorrow. There's no way in hell I could call it Empowerment for Today, given the fact that mainstream Black America wouldn't be able to carry out or handle half of what I'm talking about in Empowerment for Tomorrow. If they were, we wouldn't be in this situation in large measure that we are today, decade after decade after decade after decade after decade.
Okay. So I want to ask you, what do you think about this this ADO hashtag ADOS movement? And have you had the time to read the ADOS 101 on Antonio Moore's website? Because he and Yvonne Carnival, they put it together, and they have like a whole description of, I guess, what they're asking for on behalf of the ADOS people, which will be your people.
First and foremost, no offense against the people who are bringing this ADOS around. Bottom line, The father of ADOS is the father of affirmative action. Dr. Claude Anderson has been talking about reparations for over 30 years. If
Okay.
anybody is going to break it down and assess what it means, it's Dr. Claude Anderson. These other people are simply just taking, and that's okay. I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson talk about reparations, a topic that he basically single-handedly started himself in the modern era. So these ADOS people, they're late as hell, quite frankly. Dr. Anderson has put his staple on this over 30 years ago. He's addressed Senate hearings and everything else. Now it's just a thing where it's coming back around again in another generation with maybe some new nuances, but nothing that Dr. Claude Anderson and a few other men before him have already established. So the ADOS movement is nothing, it's nothing new under the sun, big time. The main man behind it would be Dr. Claude Anderson. And I take my lead as well as everybody else in Black America. They should be taking what he's already set down and established. Now, for the people who are, I don't want to necessarily say they're jumping on the bandwagon, but listening to Dr. Claude Anderson and Boyce Watkins last week, where Dr. Claude Anderson was quite happy and pleased that things that he's laid out and defined long before these people were even born
Right.
or actually talking about some of the things that he's talked about over 30 years ago. So whatever event and these other guys have outlined, it's not like they're not special and unique. As a matter of fact, they would be a day late and a dollar short. The man behind it all is the great Dr. Claude Anderson. But it is a topic that has come up with this generation, and it would great men and women who've gone before us, like Dr. Claude Anderson and others in different topics, because of the groundwork that men and women like them have laid, there may be a sliver of progress. But as long as this country is run and is continue to be run by a constitution set up by white men, exclusively for white men, it's only God's grace that has blessed Black people in America.
Wow.
The ADOS movement will more than likely, I'm not trying to be negative, it's more than likely going to fall flat on its face. Now, I believe her name is pronounced Gillibrand or Gillibird. I don't know how, it's so many people running for president now. There's several women running, of course, Kamala Harris, and I think, what's the Black senator from New Jersey? Booker, what's his name?
Cory Booker, right?
Cory Booker. They may be more recognizable names than the other field of participants, but not one of them have advocated for reparations. And Bernie Sanders, who was somewhat of an emotional favorite for Blacks during the last election, kind of more so than Hillary Clinton, as far as, Uncle Bernie, lovable Bernie, he made it quite clear that he would not support reparations on The View.
That's crazy.
So just like we've had this conversation before, when I can't think of her name right now. You may be able to remember her name, but it was another white female who in a CNN interview claimed she would be for reparations. And the anchorman of CNN responded, and I'm paraphrasing, "You're just doing this as a gesture." See, everybody knows that it's never going to happen.
Wow.
And really, the ADOS scenario in a perfect world would be great. There's certainly been other ethnic groups that have received some degree of compensation for their mistreatment and hardship. I think Asians after World War I and II, the China, Japanese scenario, when they were put in internment camps. But I've read articles from different places that basically, sometimes the amounts aren't necessarily given out, but in some of these articles, financial assistance was definitely given. We've also seen I heard it on Yvette Cantrell's channel a couple of years ago when Obama was in office, that and they tried to cover that up. Then an article just basically came out with it where President Obama, established, I believe, $20 million to be paid out over several years after him leaving office to surviving Jewish people of the Holocaust.
200 million or 20 million?
No, I think it was 20 million.
Okay.
20 million of surviving. A lot of those people are old, but if their grandchildren or children, 20 million, and then how many of them are living in the United States? That's something that, as Yvette Cantrell pointed out, that's not even an American issue.
Right.
That's a German issue. And Germany has paid reparations over there for the Jewish people, as well they should.
Right.
As the one thing about this ADOS, they've certainly got that right. African American descendants of slavery.
Right.
I've seen some videos with Tariq Nasheed talking to African born individuals who are residing in this country, actually stupid and ignorant enough to fix their mouths as if to say they should be getting something too. That's ridiculous as hell. You're not an American descendant of slavery.
Yeah.
You are
when it comes
you're not a Black American.
When it comes to money, you're always gonna have those people who will want to jump in and reap the benefits. It's just how it is. I mean, when it comes, just look at food stamps. Let's look at food stamps. Everybody comes to this country and they benefit off of that. And that's just the way things go.
But nobody should be benefiting outside of.
I mean, I don't agree with. I personally don't agree with immigrants in general, not just from Africa, but all over the world, coming here and benefiting if the ADOS movement is going to work and you guys are actually going to get reparations,
by its definition alone.
Yeah.
By its definition alone, no immigrant
exactly
would ever get that because they are not a descendant of slavery. Period.
Exactly. So I agree with that. I agree with the fact that
the fact that they've hashtagged it ADOS is on point. But even with that, we were supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. The idea of giving slaves something after America did what it did to my ancestors, and then said, now you're free, go out and do something.
Right.
Well, we have nothing. We worked for you all of these years under the most inhumane conditions possible. Now, after the Civil War, you're saying go out and do something on your own. No education, no nothing. So at one point, Lincoln, and I think the president after his administration, well, they at the very least would deserve 40 acres of land and a mule. We could at least give them that. Then that was bamboozled and taken away.
That's crazy.
We fought in every war, fought and died in every war America's been in, including the Civil War. Pay taxes like everybody else. And we were the cheap, free labor that this country was built on the backs of blacks. We certainly do deserve reparations, but chances are, like President Obama said, and got so much in my mind, in an interview or something. I want to say he made the statement at Morehouse or some gala dinner. I see him in a tuxedo, but when somebody brought it up, I think he took his hand and went like, "Oh, let's just forget about that. That's not going to be." So even President Obama, who would not be a descendant of a slave himself, his wife would be, but not him. But anyway, as president, he said, never mind, forget, that's never going to happen. So even he knows that's not going to be. And when you bring up reparations on The View, on CNN, or in any other context, you get just that, laugh. You get laughter.
Yeah, let's breaking news just came in. One person got shot at Concord Mills Mall in Concord, North Carolina. So we can't even go to the mall and have fun anymore at the AMC Theater. I just seen this online, so we could get back to what we're talking about, but I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, with the ADOS movement, the reason why is it's going mainstream now. Like, it's all over the news, all over the news. I mean, every news outlet, they're talking about ADOS specifically as it relates to reparations. So with seeing that, why do you feel like it's not gonna really fall through?
Because this is America. It could be on.
One second. Especially when all the Democratic candidates are talking about it, number one. And there is a convention, I think, coming up in October in Louisville, Kentucky, with Yvette Carnell, Antonio Moore, Tariq Nasheed, and a whole bunch of other people who are really pushing this thing. They're going to be having a conference there. It's already sold out. It's like 1,000 seats, I think. But they have like another section that they're still trying to sell tickets for. Must be the VIP. But it's already sold out, and they have a lot of people who are pushing this thing online. And why do you feel like it's not going to fall through? Is it because of the budgeting, the money? Who's going to pay for it? Please.
You just said it yourself, Meson. Who's pushing for it? What outlets are pushing for it?
I mean,
you didn't mention Tom Joyner or Steve Harvey. Unless those outlets are pushing for it, forget it. And even if they were, forget it. You just listed a group of people who are in a vacuum like this compared to the Steve Harvey, Tom Joyner morning show, which I've been listening to specifically over the last week or two, going to work in my new job. And reparations, ADOS, it's never brought up.
Wow.
So have a good time with your convention on ADOS.
Man, the internet trolls, they're gonna come for you, Cliff. I'm sorry. when they hear that,
it's not coming for me. I'm all for it, but I'm painting a picture for you of reality. This is America. And like Dr. Claude Anderson has said countless times, and other people who think past too, Black America has never forced white America to take us seriously from an economic standpoint. The NAACP, let me ask you something. With everybody you've listed, you seem to have taken more, done better research than I have on the topic. Is the NAACP, Congressional Black Caucus, the National Urban League, have any, you say it's all over the internet, it's all over everywhere. Has the NAACP, National Urban League, Congressional Black Caucus, are they pushing ADOS? Is Tom Joyner, Steve Harvey, BET pushing ADOS? Yes or no?
The short answer would be no, but
There you go.
the longer answer would be a lot of them are talking about. They're not really using the ADOS phrase so much, but because reparations has been in the news as of late, they are talking about reparations. They are talking about even Roland
Not
Martin,
good enough.
even Roland Martin, he's talking about reparations a lot more on his show now. And to me that's like a smack in the face to people like Tyreek and them who's really been pushing this thing as of late. Now you did mention, which is true, that Dr. Claude Anderson, he's been the one who for decades he's been talking about this. He came up with strategies and plans and everything, so he's been the one who's been doing it. It's just like a new thing now because now I guess people like Tyreek and them, their focus is more on a check aspect. Like you're gonna get a check, and when people hear money, they start going crazy. So,
Well, when Dr. Martin Luther King mentioned he was going to DC to get us a check,
yeah,
shortly thereafter he was murdered. Again,
oh wow,
people long before Tariq, Yvette Cantrell, and all of these other people were even born, we have always had Black men and women, Marcus Garvey, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, have always
right,
addressed financial due diligence, the money that you owe us. This is not something new.
okay,
There have been several Black men long before Tariq was even born talking about, I'm going to DC and we need to get a check. They have yet to do that. The quote unquote 40 acres and a mule, they have refused to do. This will be no different because of Black America's clout overall. We never demand anything for our vote. And I've already seen just
wow,
the emotional giddiness of we've got some Black folk running for the highest office in the land. And that just seems to be, for a lot of us, that seems to be just wonderful.
right,
And as far as Roland Martin is concerned, his day is numbered. He's really, rather than giving that voice in a vacuum a modicum of respect, because if there are any 7 out of 10 Black people don't think critically about a damn thing in the first place. That means that leaves you with 3 people. The
right,
3 people who do think critically are probably the 3 people like you and myself. They're in that vacuum. 7 out of 10 Black people who don't think critically about a damn thing love the NAACP.
yeah,
President Obama is the closest thing to Dr. King, the Apostle Paul, and Jesus Christ. The Tom Joyner and Steve Harvey morning show, they ring true for everyone.
right,
I mean, Tom Joyner endorses my favorite lawyer of all time, Benjamin Crump. Benjamin Crump hasn't done a thing in any of those cases except maybe get a check.
Did you say your favorite lawyer?
I'm being sarcastic, of
Well,
course.
okay, I kind of figure that. Right.
Uh, and don't you dare say anything about the NAACP and the Congressional
Oh
Black Caucus.
man.
There's a reason why I think somebody finally pinned Kamala Harris down. And I think she said in a roundabout way, she would look to support reparations. But you have to be.
Did she say that? I thought sure she said she
And again,
wasn't
I don't
gonna.
want to put out stuff that I have, but I thought I saw somewhere where she may have. Cory Booker hasn't said anything about it.
She said she wasn't gonna support anything only for black people. That's what she said. That's what she
Well,
said.
why? But see, if you're to me, and I'm not a political PhD guy, but to me, President Obama has set the mark on several things. President Obama didn't advocate for reparations or anything else specifically for black people. You've seen Dr. Claude Anderson and Tariq Nasheed videos, the benign and neglect policies of, I think, the 50s and 60s, where the government were just simply not going to pay attention to the cries of Black America. Nothing's changed. It's just packaged in different ways. That's why this ADOS movement, I wouldn't even really call it a movement. It's a pebble drop in the Atlantic Ocean. It's a distraction. I'm surprised I've spent this much time even addressing it myself. ADOS is
Man,
about as pathetic as it gets.
boy,
There's some other things.
you gonna
There's
have
some other.
people like you gonna have people like Tariq mad at you for saying that, man.
No, I don't. I don't think he would be mad at me. I would support the ADOS, but don't get mad at me. Get mad at the black folk who are actually going to go out here and vote for these black people who won't say anything about the ADOS movement. Don't
right.
me. Who am I to get
Then,
mad at?
and that leads me
I'm the
into the
last
next
person
thing.
they should be worrying about getting mad at. Get mad at these black people you're going to vote for who won't even say on your behalf, well, what about reparations, brother? You got my vote. Well, thank you for the vote, brother. Appreciate you.
You know what?
That's all you've gotten out of politicians decade after decade after decade after decade after decade. Obama did that, and most black people said he was anointed.
Right. That leads me to the next thing, Cliff. You hit it on the head because celebrities are not saying anything about ADOS. The Congressional Black Caucus, they're not saying anything about ADOS. I mean, or reparation. Uh, whatever black politician, most city mayors, is it city mayors or anyways, city officials, a lot of them are black. They're not saying anything about hashtag ADOS. So this movement almost seems to me like just an internet YouTube movement. That's really what it seems to me like. It doesn't seem real because you have a situation like the Gucci store where they deliberately disrespect black people, and next thing you know, people are still running in Gucci store to support the product. You know.
Exactly. Look at the hair weave scenarios around the country. Look at some of those videos of our very own black women. In one video, where black men came to support them, and the black women turned on them. Even right here in Charlotte, when the black woman got beat up by the Asian proprietors of the weave store, there were black women still within hours and continuing to support that. So again, reparations compared to what we do on a daily basis. No wonder when reparations are brought up, news anchors and political pundits start laughing.
So I mean, it really seems sad to me. It's like I think it's one of the only hope that a lot of young people are looking forward to. Um,
No,
because even
why did
I'll
you say
say
that?
this.
Why is this the only hope?
Let me just say this. Even Dr. Umar said exactly what you're saying. He said reparations or this ADOS movement is okay, but when it comes down to reparations, it could be a problem because you don't have a unified group. If you're unified, those things are much easier to work, but you're not unified. And because you're not unified and everybody is really out for themselves, it makes the whole deal a little harder. So you want to speak to that? That's basically what he said. And
Well, he's right because what he said, that mindset can be carried across every aspect of Black society, not just with this ADOS movement,
exactly.
education, economics. All we are to America are consumers. That's all we are. The demographic in America that consumes, and some white Americans package that imagery like a locust. A locust just flies in and just gobbles up the crops that the farmer and his family painstakingly put down through hard work. In a swarm of locusts, all they do is consume, tear down, and destroy. They don't build anything. You see where I'm? So all Black America does is consume. We don't build anything. And if one aspect of anything that we built, or to say that we produced with any notoriety, is in the field of entertainment.
Right.
My goodness, the music we produce and or develop. Some people would say create. Maybe a guy in your background, the things that we see on TV, entertainment, sports, entertainment. Other than that, Black America is viewed as nothing but gobblers uppers. All we do is gobble up. We don't produce. We don't. And because, unlike the other ethnic groups who have a component of producing, and even if it's not like producing glasses, they provide certain services that are unique to them. I think about the one article I read, and his last name would be Patel, but the Indian from India, the Middle Eastern family from India,
Right.
that came over here over 50 years ago, they own 50% of the motel market in the United States.
Yes, that is true.
That's a service. And you say, well, all they do is make up beds and clean bath. They own 50% of a hospitality industry.
They own. The key word is ownership.
Asia.
And
The Asians with their laundry cleaners in restaurants, um, Irish immigrants who still come here, even after World War II, where we basically allowed certain people from the enemy camp. Our space program is largely contributed to the great mindset of the German physicist who was under Hitler in trying to create rockets and stuff. See, America brings over people who they know can contribute to what they want to do. Now, having said that, certainly Black Americans have contributed to this country. However, due to it's so many things that they've done to us, mainly reside from a psychological standpoint. But because America, make no mistake, out of all of these demographics that contribute to American society, and just like I pointed out, what we're talking about here is the difference between mainstream Black America and the Black consciousness component of Black America, which again is like this.
Right.
Mainstream Black America, or where those 7 out of 10 people reside who don't think critically and could give a damn about anything. And they run every gamut of the socio-economic order.
Man.
So
what's
that's why I don't waste my time with this ADOS water droplet in the ocean.
what's the financial hope? What's the financial hope for Black America? Black Americans, ADOS. Not even Black America, because if I say Black America, then that will include people like me, immigrants, and everybody. Just Black Americans, ADOS. What's the financial hope? Is it Africa? Because realistically, Black Americans have ownership of Africa, just how African immigrants have ownership. You gotta just go there and claim it. That's how I feel. Because you could be a Black American and move to Africa, any country, and set up shop, and nobody's gonna stop you. Nobody's gonna tell you anything. So is it Africa? What is it?
Well, I guess that question is it's so much that we have to do. I'm only doing my, I don't know, less than 1% of what I'm trying to do with reaching the minds of young Black males in this country.
You want me to rephrase?
We have to get in this country. We have to get our stuff together. And so the hope,
right?
The hell with the ADOS. It hadn't happened in 400 years. I doubt it's going to happen anytime soon. This ADOS has been going on for centuries, not decades.
Right.
But what's the hope?
What's the one thing?
The hope for Black America.
One unifying component? What's the one thing that's going to unify Black Americans? It's got to be something. It's got to be something.
At this point, it's a shame to say that I don't know. There would be so much undoing. There would have to be so much undoing, and like Brother Ronald Washington stated in one of his videos several years ago, and I haven't seen him on YouTube lately, but the hope for Black America is what I tend to talk about in my platform.
Is it Jesus Christ?
It's young people putting on the proper cultural mindset moving forward. And quite frankly, the current generation of Black folk and mindsets, and I would agree with Brother Ronald Washington, need to die. They need to die off. We would have to have a complete reset, and we'll never get it with old mindsets, with old wine in the new wineskins.
Right.
Empowerment for Tomorrow is trying to get these young Black boys. I'm basically reprogramming their minds.
When you say when you say young people, even teenagers now, when they turn on the radio is really messing them up. Just by turning on the radio and listening to the crap that they consider music, that alone is really messing them up because the music they're listening to is telling them to glorify women, or I mean, I wouldn't say glorify, to glorify like
The ratchet behavior of these women, to glorify that ratchet
yeah,
behavior in
exactly.
women.
Yeah, the
They
ratchet behavior.
glorify
That's the word.
the absolute ugly and the most disdained. I was burning me a CD today,
Right.
and I remember one of the comments. I'm old school. I think I think it was Rakim and Nas
Okay.
referring to old school classic hip hop. And one young lady put in her comment section, Nicki Minaj. There was 512,000 views. And on this, no, I think it was Brandy and her best friend song that she had out back in the 90s. And Brandy, 100 and something thousand. And the lady wrote, "What is wrong with this picture?"
Mm.
That's where we've gone. Nicki Minaj, and now you probably keep up with more of this crap than I do,
Right.
but the Nicki Minaj, everybody has their day. She's feeling threatened by Cardi B
Of course.
because Cardi B is up and coming. So I go and look and do some research on Cardi B. Really?
She's very
You're a
ratchet.
tramp. Nicki Minaj is a tramp. I don't want my daughters emulating Nicki
Exactly.
Minaj or Cardi B.
Exactly.
So we see that in the music industry. We see in the entertainment industry, even with a scenario like Scandalous, Empire, and all of the shenanigans that they bring, the have and the have nots.
Right.
And Black America goes out and supports a fictional character that was created by two white cartoonists in the 50s called Black Panther.
Oh.
And it almost turned into a movement like ADOS to show you how pathetic our Black mindset was. There were actually a group of people trying to promote a movement that would demand that the monies brought in revenue for Black Panther, since it broke all kind of records, should be distributed amongst the Black community. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Those white men and their families and the white stakeholders, and rightfully so, they got all that money.
No, they. I think they
But you didn't
donated.
want to support. But you didn't want to support Nate Parker
Right in that other
in
movie.
his
Right?
movie of one of the most prolific icons in Black history,
What's
about
the
the
name?
story of Nat Turner,
Yeah, Nat Turner. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
movie that was done and promoted
Mm.
and spent and invested on by a Black man.
So we still haven't answered this question though, because okay, with the age thing I
No.
was
What's the hope?
with the age thing I was talking about, we said basically, if you look at what's being played on the radio now, teenagers, they're consuming this music. They're taking in all this nonsense. Teenagers. So you can't even rely on that age group because they're already looking at this to be the normal way of life. They're looking at Cardi B,
Who's
ratchetness.
promoting that? Who's promoting them? Who's promoting and facilitating Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, these mumble rappers who can't even hold a candle to some of the guys I was
Who's
listening to today?
who's
Who's who's behind all of that, Mason?
the record labels? The record labels which are owned by white people, Jewish people.
Who facilitates it?
I mean, the radio
Who
stations,
facilitates it?
the radio stations.
Who else facilitates it?
I mean, of course, basically they are supported by
Nicki
by
Minaj
black people,
facilitates it. Cardi B facilitates it.
right?
The mumble rappers facilitate it. One mumble rapper, I can't think of his name, he's very popular. The dark-skinned guy with the bright red dreadlocks.
Oh, Kodak Black.
If that's his name, you know him more than I do. He's on a Sprite commercial a couple of years ago.
I don't know.
He's a mumble rapper and basically made a statement on the Breakfast Club when Snoop Dogg and Big Daddy Kane and other rappers who were before him chastised and made a very prolific statement concerning the new generation of rappers and how pathetic they are. And they are right. They are pathetic.
Right.
They can't hold a candle to old school rappers. Their mindsets are different. Even Melly Males of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five of the Sugar Hill Gang said, you'd never even know from these new rappers that we have a black president and any other thing going on politically in the world. You know how many women they've laid down with and what kind of cars they drive. And this new mumble rap guy with the red-headed dreadlocks, and I'm paraphrasing, basically said, so what, Snoop Dogg and all of y'all, I'm making money. Right. So that's all they care about. So what's the hope? The hope relies in us. That's where the hope relies. But if we're not willing to do what we need to do, as Marcus Garvey used to tell us over 100 years ago, Medgar Evers, Dr. King, Malcolm X, and a host of other black men and women, the hope resides in us, as Dr. Umar Johnson says. God is never going to help and has never helped a group of people who's not willing to help themselves. We're not willing to help themselves. And this ADOS has a typical underlying stench that you see from overwhelming mindsets of the black community. It's a handout that y'all need to give me.
I knew you were coming back with that. It's a handout, huh?
Well, it's the hope resides in us.
I'm saying the hope.
The Black Enterprise magazine has made statements that basically says, you want to turn Black America around? Look in the mirror and turn your black ass around.
The hope is leadership, man. And it's sad.
My platform, leadership starts with us. We have no leadership in Black America.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's no real leadership. It's almost like this, right? This is how I see it. In order for Black Americans, ADOS, to really move to another financial level and be better, you almost have to have your own government within this government. That's the only way. And it's not going to work because the United States government do not want black people to really rise up like that.
Yeah, because what you said, these other ethnic groups essentially have that very thing. They essentially have You can use the word government, but they essentially have a mindset of unity. I have talked to them, I've worked with them, and I have had Middle Easterners tell us we have a component of our community that's not the best, but it's
Right.
not the overwhelming majority, and it's not what's pervading.
Right. You can look at.
As one Middle Eastern coworker told me, the same mindset that my wife and our community has here in Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
that same Middle Eastern mindset is in California, is in Texas, it's wherever they are.
Let's look at Israel. See, Israel, they have a whole land, they have a whole government. But then, who's running the media in this country? Who's running the banks? Who's running these different huge industries?
Jewish people pretty much
Exactly.
control and run the banks, the entertainment, and
And
so forth.
yeah,
And you dare not speak against them.
exactly. But they have a country though. You see what I'm? They have a
Even if they
country.
didn't have that's true, they do have a country of Israel that they got back in 1946, I think.
Right. They
In
got a.
1946, there are a couple of other dynamics that go with them. But even if they didn't have that, what they have established in America, not Israel, what they have done and established in this country
Mm-hmm.
speaks volumes. And with them, it's a mindset. Again, the hope for us would be, and I think you could see the hope. I think you could see the answer to that question and what I've been talking about over the last. The psychological damage has been catastrophic to us. I'm not even wanting to get into some things that I have been seeing with our black family in Africa. That's even more pathetic on the things that I'm seeing coming out of there. Uh, Malema, who would be the equivalent of a Marcus Garvey, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Dr. Claude Anderson mindset over here. Same situation. I need to I need to redo your brain.
Because
Malema's going through this. I need to redo your brain. It's something as trivial, but it speaks volumes. Your oppressors are gone, and Malema makes a statement. You are still in legal proceedings wearing your oppressors' silver wigs. If that doesn't speak volumes to the psychological damage that has been done,
you,
that
we
same
let's
mindset
not
can,
let's not even go into to
that
Africa
same, well, I'm
tonight.
making a point, that same
Right.
mindset can be brought over here.
Right.
We have black candidates running for president, and essentially the mindset of the black American candidate running for president of the United States
Mm-hmm.
is saying, don't say anything that you're going to do for black people.
Right.
What kind of
You know, I'm gonna give you a scenario. You have a ratchet chick like Cardi B, right? And I'm gonna use her name because she's out there in the public. It's easy for people to look at her. She has a daughter right now. I don't care how much money she has. If she continues that ratchet behavior, what makes you think her daughter is gonna be any different? Now, her daughter could be different. In some cases, the child, when they reach that teenage, they could switch and change. But all their life, they've been consuming ratchetness from their mother. So, like, even the children are at risk of the whole ratchetness of what we're dealing with in this country, even the kids.
Well,
What can you say about that?
again, it goes back to the facilitators. Cardi
Exactly.
B is a facilitator. Nicki Minaj is a facilitator, but even more so, BET, the network
The radio
where
stations,
facilitators, the radio
right?
stations, facilitators.
Wow.
So much of what we are dealing with, as I like to point out in my platform, in significant measure, we're doing it to ourselves. It's like
Mm.
we've been set on automatic pilot to self-destruct. The white supremacist and promulgator of superiority over blacks and the promulgator of systemic racism to keep us down, as hip hop artists remind us all the time. They even have a category called "I bees in the trap." So even with them saying that, they understand why they're in the trap and who put them there, but yet they glorify
Hmm.
it. Don't hear too many rappers talking about getting out of the trap. They glorify being in the trap. And if I'm not mistaken, on a BET award show, maybe you can shed some light on this. They actually have a category now called trap music. How, as my radio guy from Oklahoma, Carl King, likes to say, why do we continue to gravitate to everything that's ugly, bad, wrong, no decorum, no class, no anything? That would stop if we would stop sending money and lining their pockets.
I mean,
BET needs to be shut down.
it's not Cliff. It's not. I don't think it's
Radio
only.
stations would need to be shut down.
Yeah, it's not.
Somewhere along the way, you'd have to have an artist that would tell Lee Daniels, I'm not performing in this role
Let me say.
because it makes the black man look blah, blah, blah. Somewhere, a young, beautiful woman who looks like Nicki Minaj is going to have to say, I'm not going to bend over and twerk in front of thousands of people and use filthy potty mouth language. I'm just not going to do that.
And they're gonna lose that deal. They're gonna lose that record
My
deal.
deal, buy, lose it. My integrity and self-esteem should be better than that.
But it's good you brought that up because that's
So
what they
we
always
facilitate
say.
a lot of
They always say the record label's gonna drop us because we're not trying to do popular music that everybody wants to hear. I don't know where they came out with that. Everybody wants to hear that. Not because something is being played so many times and people are forced to hear it, that means people actually want to hear it. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, but they always
people
say,
will eventually be numbed down if like Snoop Dogg was saying, if these mumble rappers who have got to be some of the most unintelligent people in front of a microphone that there's ever been, but the two go hand in hand. The rapper or the mumble rapper or the singer who's glorifying the most dysfunctional aspect of our community, I don't look at him as a musical genius because he's making money.
mm.
He's an idiot. He's a he's the scourge of our community
mm.
and should be treated as such. You're not as talented. You have no talent, but the world and the infrastructure around you makes it seem like you do. Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, you're not Alicia Keys. you will never be in the same realm as Alicia Keys.
But
Forget it.
why are they getting those deep? Why are the record labels signing them though? If they're not talented
Sex
and they're
sales, garbage sales, and it further promotes a negative image
of
of
black
Black
people.
America.
Exactly.
And BET, Tom Joyner, and all of them, they sign off on it as well because they have to sign off on it for this. See, these questions that we're bringing up, these things that we're bringing up, there's so much to this behind the scenes. At the
Right.
end of the day, the buck is going to have to stop at the individual. At the end of the day, like I point out in my Empowerment for Tomorrow, there is going to have to be zero tolerance.
Hmm.
You do not walk around with your pants hanging off your ass. That is not open for debate. It amazes me that when I've mentioned that over the years, Black men, 35, 40 years old, start out with a, well, there is no well.
Hmm.
Your mouth should have never opened with that. Men do not walk around with their pants hanging off their ass. And when you see men who are walking around with pants hanging off their ass, 99.9% of them are Black men.
Hmm.
I don't see white boys walking around with pants hanging off their ass. And if I do, he's trying to make a statement because he thinks it's cool.
Well, I heard it was part of the whole jail homosexual culture. That's where they got that from.
That's
So
another thing. You can bring up anything you want to bring up, Mason, and put Black people involved in it, and the media will always promote the Black. A white man did not come out on the red carpet in a tuxedo dress. It was a Black man who
it
did.
was a black man. Oh my gosh. It's sad, man. It's sad. You know. That's the
Empire and all of the ridiculous shenanigans that they show. But Lee Daniels is a homosexual. Everybody knows that. So he has his agenda. And I don't know if you remember it or not. Empire was such an exciting show to watch that a few years ago, I don't know if they do it that much now because I've only seen 30 minutes of Empire, and that was enough to disgust me. I've never seen a full episode. But years ago, at one of the most popular social gatherings in Charlotte, they were showing Empire Night down at the Epicenter.
mm,
And
yeah.
our Black women were down there in droves. But that's another topic. Black women watch more TV in the United States than any other demographic in America. That ought to speak volumes right there to anybody who thinks critically. But that's another topic all itself.
Okay, so my last question for the night is: can the resources out of Africa uh, be a reason that most Black Americans will want to invest and do business in Africa and eventually call Africa home?
From what I see right now, the short answer would be no.
Mm,
It would have to be a hit and miss thing because I'm seeing too many stories coming out of Africa where the country is actually run by Africans, but they allow other investments in their country to dictate to them what they're going to do. Black men in Africa, in almost every country in Africa, outnumber white men from anywhere from 8-1 to 20-1 in some areas I've seen. And somehow, 20 black guys versus one white guy, and the white guy wins. That's ridiculous.
That's
So
that's
for
probably
an
in this.
African, for a Black American and an African union to take place, so many things on both fronts up here are going to have to take place. There is no real African leadership based on some of the most researched African born men that I have heard and read from articles and saw on YouTube. These are just not some observation. A black man like me who has never visited Africa yet. I plan on going. But from what I have read and seen from 60, 70-year-old African educated research, Dr. and Trench have dedicated their lives to explaining what's going on in their country, have lovingly implored Black people in their country in Africa to change their mindset, or we're going under. In this country, where white people outnumber us 6-1, and they run the country, so much of the 7 out of 10 Black people in this country who don't think critically are still asking for a seat at the table. So you got Black America actually believing they're actually going to be given a seat at the table and live out the true creed of what the Constitution established, but it did not establish that for us. Then you have across the world, the richest continent on the planet, which basically, in a nutshell, drives the economic engines of the entire planet,
world. Yeah.
where Black men theoretically are in charge of this continent, and the manifestation of which is anything but that. We have a problem all over. So a union between Black America and Africans to have it come to its full fruition, we've got so many things that have got to be corrected on both points.
Okay, let me say this. When you look at the Chinese, they're going in Africa for business. When you look at the Russians and everybody else, Europeans, they're going there now for business. I know it's going to be far-fetched for a lot of Black Americans to really want to move to Africa, but at least for the for the for the sake of business, it would be better for Black Americans to take advantage of the resources out of Africa. And this is for business people, people who are interested and more focused on business, because the general public here, a lot of people are not even thinking about even visiting Africa. You know, they'll go to Jamaica and everywhere else.
Yeah, I think I saw in the earlier video we did over a year ago. Most Black Americans who actually believe they're African Americans, and yet Africa is the last place they want to go. They
Right.
want to go to Australia. They want to go see Europe. They want to go see South America. Never hear the average Black American who has the means to travel around the world. Where you going? Going to Alaska, going to Australia. Hadn't mentioned a country out of Africa yet.
Right. So, I mean, like I said, for the standpoint of business, like business people, Black Americans who are business people, wouldn't it make sense for them to want to invest in Africa when you got the Chinese and everybody else going there?
These Black people, these Black businessmen are probably doing just that. There's so much in this country that's kept from the everyday Black man. We've
Hmm.
got Black businessmen at the top of their game who take in, quite frankly, the value system of their oppressor. I mean, think
Wow.
about the former owner of BET. Think about the former owner of the Charlotte Bobcats when he sold it to Michael Jordan.
No, but him,
I sent you guys that video
yeah, but
several
him,
months ago where
yeah,
Bob Johnson said on one of the financial channels that comes on MSNBC when
right.
they asked did he think Trump was a racist, and he emphatically said, Bob Johnson, oh no, he's not a racist. Of course not.
Let me say something.
He's
Not
a
defending,
billionaire.
not defending that statement that you just said, but defending Bob Johnson. He actually opened a resort in Liberia. So he opened a resort. I think it was
I saw
under
that.
it was under him for like 5 years, and I think he sold it or so a few years back.
Right.
But
So
but he took when he was going there, he took I want to believe it was Chris Tucker and some other major actors and business people from the U.S. to see if they could invest in Liberia when he went there to start his initial investment. So not defending what you said as far as the statement about Trump, but at least he actually went there and put his money where his mouth is.
yeah, no, and it goes to my statement before the one I made where there are Black businessmen who are, you just said it, he's one of them. But the overall scope, how many people know that? How many Black people know that? I'm a man who's trying to get across, even at the microcosm of microcosm levels, to show our young Black youth a Black man invented that, said this about that, a Black woman did this, said that. But you're so inundated with mumble rap, you're
Hmm.
so inundated with the Atlanta housewives and everything else. When I tell you that a Black woman from MIT invented call waiting, you've never heard of it before.
Right. So
I tell you that the CEO of Carnival Cruise Lines is Black. When I tell you that Bill Gates, when he resigned from everyday operations of Microsoft, put a Black man, I think his name was Tim Johnson, to run the company. You have no idea. You have no idea that a Black woman runs the largest retail organization at one point in the world, Walmart and Sam's. So we got stuff, information and things that movers and shakers are doing, but most of these Black movers and shakers are doing the things that they are moving and shaking with. You don't have to look too many seats down to see some white men involved. Akon, with all that he's doing in Africa, in his electric lighting parts of his homeland that have never had electricity. But when he was making those statements at that press conference, it was Akon, 3 white men over here, 3 white men over here.
Oh Lord have mercy, man. Wow. So I mean, brother, is the hope for black people Jesus Christ? I mean, I don't know.
The hope for us resides in us. I've laid out, I don't know how many examples, every little category you brought up and we've assessed. It's
Right.
still, you have a component of cowardice running through it. You have a component of non-critical thinking running through it. And when in this country, and Malema seems to be experiencing some of the same things, it frustrates men like me in this country because you think, but y'all run those countries and you got the numbers on your side. But even in this country, we're so used to black men and women at the highest levels in government, education, economics, you name it, playing what I call playing third person black boy, like that article in Q City Metro where they profiled 30 black men from the Charlotte area. And the Q City Metro, the online black newspaper, specifically asked the vice president from, I think he was from Bank of America or Wells Fargo, but he was a black man. He was one of the 30 black men that, you know, and she specifically asked him, so how important is credit and financial awareness to the black community? And his answer was credit and finances are important for all communities. But as far as those black folk you're talking about, that was his mindset. She didn't even ask him about that. She specifically asked him about the black community, and the response out of his mouth was to make a point. Well, it's important for everybody.
Why do you think
This kumbaya shit just kills me?
Well, yeah. Why do you think black people always do that? Where
Psychological.
we can't. I mean, no. For us Liberians and most Africans will answer for our people. But what I've noticed here, a lot of black Americans will always answer for everybody. Like what I don't want to say my co-worker's name, but you know who sits right behind me. He's always talking, I'm an American, this is for everybody. He's always saying that. I'm like, I'm talking about if I ask him something specifically, like, look, what do you think about this for black people? He'll always jump, I believe in everybody getting this. I'm like,
and yet you could feel the tallest building in downtown Charlotte, Bank of America building. You could feel it from top to bottom with more documented evidence that a child could understand. This particular demographic right here in this country, they've been the most trounced on, trodden underfoot on group of people, and yet you'll still have a black person that says, well, credit and financial awareness is important for everyone. But as far as blacks are concerned, well, yeah, brother, why don't you tell me about these black folk? That's what I call that third person black person. He's black, but those blacks over there, yeah, let me tell you. She didn't even ask him that question. So we've got that mindset. And you see that mindset with these people running for president. But now they will have to specifically they will have to specifically say these black candidates running for president, as well as the white ones. But these black candidates will specifically have to point out what they're going to do for that Hispanic constituent vote, for
Right.
that white American vote,
Oh yeah.
for that Latino, you name it.
Right.
But what about your own? What about your own people? Who
It's for
cares?
everybody.
Who cares?
Wow.
You better not ever say anything specifically that you're going to do for black folk. You can't ever specifically say that. Remember, President Obama was the closest thing to Jesus Christ, the Apostle Paul, and Dr. Martin Luther King all wrapped up into one.
Mm.
And if he didn't advocate for reparations, when he left office in that term, I am my brother's keeper, which I think has at least been, the imagery of it has always seemed to be steeped within the black community. But President Obama wanted to make sure my brother's keepers program
Was for everybody.
was for everybody. Which I haven't heard anything about my brother's keepers program.
You know, he barely spoke about even Trayvon Martin when that boy got killed. He barely. I don't even think he spoke about the other little kid, Tamir Rice. You know, so talking about reparations is really far fetched, man. If he's not even gonna speak on incidents like that, that was really hurtful to the community at large, man.
Yeah. Like I said, if he decides to run, if Joe Biden decides to run for president, Corey who, Kamala who, and all of these other people, they might as well not even have jumped into the race. Because when if Joe Biden runs for president and the Apostle Paul, Jesus Christ, President Obama endorses Joe Biden, as far as black America is concerned, who do you think they're going to vote for if Joe Biden runs and President Obama endorses Joe Biden? Do I need to be a political expert to figure that one out?
I'm saying he's not for reparations, that's for sure, because they asked him about it. And when they asked him, he was like, he's not for it, man. But like you said, it doesn't matter.
It's not going to matter.
It doesn't matter.
President Obama endorsed Joe Biden now.
Yeah.
We got to support Obama.
It's going to be better for us.
It's going to be better for us. And I hate to say it. In a world where a black candidate can't say anything specifically for black people, but Joe Biden will be able to.
You think he would?
Yeah. A lot of the white candidates are doing that now. They're just not bringing up reparations. But remember, like I said in my article, will Black America ever wake up? A white candidate can specifically say what he will do for the black community, as we've seen Trump do. A lot of black folk got upset and mad at Trump. They shouldn't. When Trump said, "What do you got to lose?"
Right.
Well, that's what I've said. That's what Marcus Garvey, that's what anybody with a brain in their head would say. What have you got to lose, Black America? Because you certainly haven't gained a damn thing, really.
Mm.
And the Latino Hispanic community has been in America strong, I'm going to say, the last 60 years. And even they have eclipsed Black America in wealth accumulation.
Oh yeah, but they're more than black people now in this country. They're like what?
They have doubled us in population.
Yeah,
but I'm not talking about that. Asians don't even make up 4% of the population, and they're second only to whites in wealth accumulation.
That's true.
So so let's not bring up that. Let's bring up the real thing. Wealth.
But I'm gonna tell you this.
They have eclipsed us.
You just said Asians. At my job right now, your previous job. Don't you see what's happening over there? Don't you see who's bringing Indians to that place? You see where I'm going. I don't want to say anything specific, but you see that the Indians or the other Asians, they help each other out. They bring, even if they're not qualified. How many
Their
times?
own code.
Yeah, their own code.
Among other things. There's
How
so
many
many
times
things
have
that
you
we don't
seen?
do right.
You got like 5 or 10 Indians in the engineering department, and all of them are not qualified, man. When was the last time a black person brought a few people to their job? They always feel threatened, like, oh, this person about to come take over my job.
So again, so much of it, if you've read, and I do a lot of reading, as you know, and that's another thing I try to get across to my young. You're going to have to read things outside of yourself.
That's true.
But I do a lot of reading, and so much of what we're talking about, again, has been steeped in the psychological tentacles that the founding fathers of white supremacy, slavery, and promulgated systemic racism acumen and techniques have put in place. They have caused so much damage to us from a psychological standpoint. It's hard to undo that aspect in your mind. And when you have organizations like the Black Church, the NAACP, and the Congressional Black Caucus signing off and facilitating so much of what the oppressors have put into motion, it's kind of like what Malima was saying over there. You are now running the government, and you don't even have the mental acumen and presence of mind to remove what your former oppressors have utilized to symbolize what they meant. You don't even have the mental acumen to take those white wigs off your head. What in the hell else can I expect you to do if your psyche is, you haven't even stepped past that?
Yeah. And on that note, Brother Cliff, do you have anything to close with? Plug your
No,
website.
it's been I didn't
Plug
think we'd be on here this long, but
plug
it's
your
been a
website
very,
and whatever else you're doing, and so we could kind of close.
no, well, I'm still looking to promote empowerment for tomorrow. That's my primary reason for living, I think, with, in its proper prioritization and place in my life. But that is my passion. That is my mission, to do the best that I can to get the mindset of our young men simply turned around so they can understand how to at least be aware of things and how to walk circumspectly with respect to their culture and what it means. There's a whole lot of things wrapped up into empowerment for tomorrow that I will not and will never even talk about on the air, so to speak. That's how important it is to be able to sit in that platform. But that's my hope. because quite frankly, that's the only hope we've got. It's not called empowerment for tomorrow for a reason.
Right.
Empowerment for today would never work. You know, we've got people like Andrew Young and Lewis talking about how hard it is to talk about the folks who oppressed us and beat us and did us so wrong. After all, they're the forgotten ones. Well, we got civil rights icons talking like that.
Okay. There's a bonus question here. Can ADOS movement work? Listen, can an ADOS movement work if it's a situation that's self-reparation? Basically, the ADOS movement come together, form an organization, and now they can collect donations to effect change in the black community around the country, the different black communities. Can that work as opposed to waiting on a check from the government? Can that situation, because I've seen people collect money even on YouTube, on one live stream, they collect thousands of dollars. So can the ADOS movement be more geared towards of an organization that will be there to help different black communities, like what's happening in Flint, Michigan? You know, like the ADOS being like an organization to collect donations and help out Flint, Michigan in a real systemic way that will last for generations, not just like help that will last till tomorrow.
That
And
would require black unity on a level that would be unparalleled, number one. And number two, black banks and the black church would have to be involved. So at least you see where the one reasons why we'll never get reparations is because it has to come from the government. Who runs the government, Mason? So we'll never get reparations, obviously.
right,
But to get some type of, and it wouldn't be called ADOS then.
right,
Be it would be just a collective of black people using their almost $2 trillion spending power to collectively, kind of like what I've said before with Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson is a man who should never exist. The black church alone, every 7 days, brings in hundreds of millions of dollars every 7 days. So if all of the black churches had a collective mindset, we could easily have built a couple of schools strategically placed around the United States of America for our children.
right,
That will never happen or couldn't happen because 7 out of 10 black people who don't think critically, number one, those same 7 out of 10 black people who don't think critically are also the ones who want to continue to strive for white Americans' acceptance at the table. Remember, I get 4 magazines every month, and that theme runs through every one of those magazines practically every month.
right.
The NAACP magazine, The Crisis, the editors have said on several occasions, and we will continue to strive for a seat at the table.
Oh my God. Okay, so with that being said, I mean, you guys heard a detailed message about the ADOS and everything else, and I mean, I really don't even know what to say because the brother hit it on the head. It's just, it's gonna be a hard fight. It's gonna be hard, but this your boy Mezonic. Everybody, please check out my latest single, Mama Africa. It's on my website. It's on iTunes and everything. And you can also find it on my channel, of course, Mama Africa. Um, check out my album, Carnival. And into um, if you're into like Black consciousness and things of that nature, check out my album, Inspired 2. And we're gonna try to continue this at least once a week or once every other week, but we'll keep the conversation going. So please subscribe, share, like this video, and thank you guys so much for checking this out. Peace.
Till next time.